episode of Offensively Accurate. I apologize I have been gone so long. I appreciate seeing you in here, Donnie, already. Everybody's got to let me know and make sure my mic is okay. I live tested it for only about 30 minutes before going live while I had time. Got a brand new microphone, so hopefully not getting any feedback of any sort as well. Let me actually go ahead and knock these headphones out too while I'm just talking straight to the microphone. And you probably read the title, Wifejak Wars. It's something that kind of I felt I could strum about for a little bit, seeing how it's kind of taken over the culture drama, at least on X. I'm not sure on other platforms as well, but I'm sure. And just a few things, honestly, to get into. It might not be that long as normal, and like I tweeted on X, going to shake off the rust a bit. So hopefully it's a good show. Hopefully we're doing okay. I'm glad the mic sounds good. I did receive another strike on YouTube. I had video content removed. It initially said I had a warning. I went and checked. That was actually my second warning. You only get one on YouTube. So that's a bit unfortunate. I have no idea what the content was even about. It was about, Trump and Sean Strickland. They took the content completely off YouTube, and I don't have a backup of it. So I have no idea what I said that offended them, but they said medical misinformation. So we'll do our best to avoid that topic for today, at least. And I guess a couple announcements while I'm starting off the show, because I will be uploading this back onto Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. Part of the reason I've been so busy is because I've been doing the stream with Worrell. I've been sharing the spotlight with him. He's got a lot bigger following than myself. I'm trying to play it, what's the right word? I'm trying to be as safe as I humanly possibly can be on Worrell's show in stream. I think anybody who knew me previously before doing the stream with Worrell knows that I don't play things safe at all. I actually kind of push the limits a little bit. Probably not as much as your maybe regular dissident right individual, but I at least do a bit that probably people don't like, hence getting strikes and such. So I would like to point out too, the Discord, although the link in this current description may be bummy, it might not work at all. So if anybody would like to join the Discord and join our group and community over there, with the jar openers, please let me know. I can actually kind of repaste the link in here while I'm in the chat here, make it a bit easier for everybody. And with the microphone thing out of the way, I guess we can probably get right into it. I guess one other thing too, I had my daughter not too long ago. So for anybody who hasn't been following on jar openers, I had my daughter about a little over a week ago at this point. And I've talked to Donnie about this off air and many other people too. It's made me a lot more radical. Just seeing the Jeff Younger story kind of run concurrently right after my daughter was born, and seeing how that was kind of getting finalized and him kind of being shoved off into obscurity there in California, having a terrible judge with Judge Juhas. It pushed me to a point where I was like, I'm going to begin to be a bit more radical. Now, you kind of compare this at the same time while something happened with Matt Gaetz with his appointment at AG. Seeing all the cabinet appointments up to that point had been like, okay, decent, solid, really. None that kind of really blow you away besides Tom Homan. And then we get the Matt Gaetz, and it's like, that's amazing. Something happened on the day that Matt Gaetz stepped down, because every single appointment since then has been utterly garbage. I kind of hold these points. I hold a bit back more on jar openers, but if you want my true thoughts, and I'm not trying to black pill by any means, in my personal opinion, I think that the rest of the appointments have been literal garbage. Specifically, the Jeanette Wishowatz individual, the U.S. Surgeon General, who has all of this stuff, again, regarding the unsafe topic on YouTube that I won't get into to avoid getting any further punishment from YouTube. But she's abysmal on a lot of these topics. I mean, specifically, when it comes to like children and the censorship aspect from her too, it's just cringe. Now, Cenk Uygur actually put out a tweet earlier today saying that he believes that the MAGA group is actually much less of cultists than what people have been led to believe. And I think he was speaking to the left, or maybe he thinks he's speaking to everybody. And I hope that's true. I really hope that's true. And his point really was being that if Trump continues to go awry, he thinks that MAGA will hold him accountable. I'm hoping that is true. I'm hoping we don't have to do these mental gymnastics to do all of these apologetics, this 18D chess of like, well, maybe it's because of this and this and this. Now, I'm not saying to not be optimistic. I'm just saying there does come a point where you probably can no longer defend it when it continually is put in place, and you see these things. One thing that really kind of tipped that edge to me was forgive me, was getting this female Fauci, getting this woman in there who was no better than what we had previously. And then you get a follow up statement regarding, again, Operation Warp Speed and how good that was. And I disagree on many different reasons for that I won't get into because I know YouTube's probably watching right now. So, with that out of the way, we'll move into the actual cultural topic, which is the wife jack aspect. And the reason why I think that's important is because I think we're seeing a lot of breakups, and breakups in the right wing specifically. Now, the wife jack's on the cultural side. The appointments is on the much more political in tune side, probably people who are less care less about the social aspects of things. Now, the reason why I think that's important is because this is something I've been saying will happen and would have happened. I mean, almost like a year ago at this point, maybe even longer. I seen it coming specifically in regards to the religious side of things, but that kind of played out, following Calendar Gate into what turned into the abortion abolitionist debate, which really wasn't much of a debate, seeing how there's a lot less strong voiced pro-life, very, very convicted individuals. Now, I'll put it on screen actually, because I haven't put it on screen at all. I've been having it sitting here floating for a second because I think people need to see this. This is the wife jack meme. This is what is tearing X apart. Now, I think it has a hard age line. And the reason why it has a hard age line, and I can explain the meme pretty quickly to you, the reason for this meme is it's essentially, you'll see this, it's considered a Wojak, and it's meant to depict a certain type of female. Now, in this case, it's meant to depict your average housewife or wife just in general in modern times. And generally equipped with a caption that's just saying something that most husbands have heard before. And then even a lot more funny ones that have been crafted in regards to, some of the good ones are like, oh, honey, or like it'll be like screaming. And then the caption, it'll show the guy being like, honey, the car's 100 feet away. So a lot of these very, very common kind of tropes that you get with wives. Now, what kind of really broke it apart was you ended up getting a good faction of the right wing that goes, this is very endearing. We appreciate this a lot. It's a way that we can kind of love our wives because all husbands across the earth, or I guess really America, I don't know why I said earth, can sit there and go, yeah, okay, my wife does similar things to this. Even if it's not the specific, text in the caption, they go, yep, that's my wife. Now, it seems to be under the 24 and 25 age marker for men, younger men, I should say. They see this as being exceptionally gay and homosexual. And I say that not in the kind way. They see this as some kind of like uber form of simping. They see this as like maybe like more of an elite form of simping. One that is more reflective in the fact, I would say, is over the top. I was neutral at the start of this, but seeing how kind of the Nick Fuentes crowd and all of those who are in his circle kind of played it out, I think it to me, it's way too over the top. I would say way, but I think it's too over the top. It's an overreaction to something that I think doesn't truly exist, or what's being presented in the meme. I think it does exist, but I don't think the meme is presenting what they are getting angry at. And I think what they're angry at is a misdirection of anger. Now, I've talked this over with a couple of people, and, Donnie, who's here in chat as well, I even said off air, to me, it is, again, an overreach. Now, for the reason being that maybe specifically that it's on this hard age line is a lot of the reasons I've brought up in previous episodes. And again, if you haven't been following me or been following this channel, a lot of what I've poked at is the fact that there is a brutal dichotomy, a very toxic dichotomy between men and women. Specifically in the younger generations, a lot of people have given up in dating, period. Now, this doesn't just mean just men only. This is actually extended a bit to females as well, which is a smaller group, but still just kind of as vocal. They call them like the rad femmes or the femcells, which has actually taken off a bit in like this recent year as well, which I wish I wasn't seeing things like that, but there are all reasons to explain it. So the Wifejak Wars is really a lot of right wing individuals. I haven't really seen many left wing people comment on it. They're all gay anyways, so they can't really understand the memes. They don't get married. Um, but more specifically, it's driving again this kind of edge lord kind of feeling, right? It's not feeling, but the sentiment of being like, I see something that makes people go, "Hey, I love or appreciate a wife or a woman," and these people who are in not even in just the Nick Fuentes crowd, but those who are even adjacent to it, they go, I have to oppose that because, like, how dare you put a woman on a pedestal ever? Now, the reason why I find this to be a bit surprising, although maybe not really, is because this crowd is the one that also says, things like Christ is king. And I don't mean to say this as like, oh, they're not Christian. It's just odd to me that at what point then are we allowed to actually appreciate women, or one or some that may be, or even if there are good ones, at what point are you allowed to actually appreciate them? And this is what's caused a hard line, and I think this is why there's an age line. And I even said specifically, I think it's two different generations of men that are dealing with two different generations of women. Um, and so I think if you were to grow up and you were never to feel or really have a relationship with a woman, you were very secluded and you were very isolated. And all you were able to receive or digest about females was what you saw on the internet. You would reflexively go, they're all disgusting. Now, this isn't to say that it's not all women either. I think there's a big portion of feminism that seeps into all women. I mean, especially given where we're at in modernity. But more specifically, it's like not an attack on like the whatever podcast. It's not an attack on the Fresh and Fit podcast, because at a certain point when these people, and thank you, I appreciate that. I'm glad the mic sounds good. At a certain point when these podcasts are on, episode 1,000 and whatever, and they've brought on hundreds of different, I mean, thousands at this point. You can't just keep saying they're cherry picking. A lot of the times too, they bring on conservative women who end up parroting and repeating a lot of these same things and ideals. So it's not like it's even a just on one side of the aisle kind of ideology. I think this form of feminism that's overtaken the psychology of most people. And in fact, it's become so accepted that a lot of these on the conservative side don't even realize they're perpetuating it. And so that's where you get the edgelords and like the Nick Fuentes' crowd comes in. And they oppose it because they are so fed up with women at any juncture, at any level of appreciating women, that they want to see, I think, quite possibly in a complete reversal of the deck. They want to see the tables flipped so hard that even appreciating your wife, if you do have a good wife, even, it's kind of just like it's over their head now at this point. Now, a part of me, people might think this is harsh. A part of me sits there and goes, I really can't blame them. But again, I say that with the fact that, again, if you had only grown up online and you were only consuming what TikTok was feeding you, when we know that there's all of these kind of psychological bends on the algorithms that really only kind of show you the worst of the worst, or they do the reverse and they show you like Instagram, they show you the best things and they kind of make you envious of like, why am I not living this lifestyle? It's no surprise that the younger generation who would be more tuned in and terminally online have much darker ideals than what the generations precedes them, which is why I pointed out the age difference on that. And again, it's the craziest thing because I'll put it on screen here again too. It's literally a picture of a woman, and it's just like a little, like a nice necklace. It's not meant to look, anything really crazy. It's just meant to represent the average woman. And that's why I even made the thumbnail of this too, because you probably saw when you clicked on the video. And Donnie Brooke is saying, bet you gay boys like to kiss girls, Nick Fuentes 2024. And, and I think that's fair criticism too, because I think when you play your hand so over the edge, you play it so hard, you open yourself up to this. Now, there are good points that I think when I listened to the previous stream from Nick Fuentes, and don't take this as like, it's a huge disavowal of this guy. I just think he's wrong on this. He brought up the fact that, say for example, we need to ban porn, or porn is bad. Well, most people immediately start thinking of the effects that it has on men. And what's left out of the equation with this is the effects that it has on women. And I think that's a really rather untouched subject, because if you were to look at the individuals who consume porn, there are still a good population of women who consume porn. And even if it's not in the direct mode of traffic with Pornhub, they're consuming it with books, right? It's called like smut and things like that. Now, again, like I'll say, and I repeat this as I said at the top of the hour, the show is a lot less family friendly than what it is on Jar Openers, but I like to be a lot more brutally honest. And so if people aren't interested in this conversation, I'm just giving you kind of a warning in advance. I'm not going to get graphic, but just to explain things in detail. And you have a good portion of this that is of the females who consume this pornography, depending on no matter whether it's from a book or from the video, there's a growing faction inside of that is actually rather large. Now, Nick Fuentes quoted 90% of females who watch porn. Um, I've not seen any figures to speak to that, so take that with a grain of salt. But the point stands is there is a large amount of the women who do consume porn that is in the direction of non-consensual actions, and portray things like assault. Now, the reason why I think this is disturbing, and to aid Nick Fuentes' argument, is the fact that it's rather untalked about. It's rather an untouched argument. Now, you got to imagine if we're already dealing with the fact that, you can't even get pastors in a church to preach things about, traditional sensibilities, speaking down on modern sensibilities. Well, I mean, then we're a lot of steps away from being like, okay, and women also do X. And so I think when someone like Nick Fuentes and the crowd that is a lot more aware of these kind of things than the average individual, and at least probably looks at them in a much worse light, they see this stuff and they go, yeah, but women are just as bad, if not worse. Um, and then they use this to kind of catapult themselves into this positioning to be like, no one will attack women as harshly as we need people to attack women. So it's conceived, and honestly, a lot of the stuff they do post gets a bit out of hand, but it's perceived as such. It's perceived as like you hate women, and so it opens them up to be called like, yeah, you're gay. And Donnie says, I'm not disregarding everything he says either, but this one is tough not to laugh at. And I think you're right. I think you're right. This is the first time I think in almost a year and a half of like listening to Fuentes, that I was like, you're wrong. Like you're pretty wrong. And maybe not even wrong is the right word, but I think you're overreaching on this. It kind of it's gonna pull back all the people you were building up with this momentum to kind of listen to you as the band man, and it draws them away because you kind of once again overplayed your hand with the Wifejak, and it's such a simple meme to think that you would be getting this angry about, but I think it's all of everything that underlies that. And to speak more truth to this too, I mean, most of us know. I mean, most marriages actually kind of operate this way, where the guy goes, "Yes, honey. What did you say, honey? I'll do that right now, honey. No worries." And so it's not even kind of about the meme. They see the meme and all they can see is that guy who they perceive as a cuck doing the things that they hate, that thinks keeps them trapped in the cycle. And what keeps them in the cycle where they believe that too is because if a woman knows that there will be some sorry guy out there who will do whatever kind of white knighting or simping that she feels is required of her, given her modern feminist outlook on what her boyfriend or husband should be doing, then they feel like there's a certain portion of men that just can't compete in the dating market. Just because if they're too mean or they try to pull things to a direction that's more Christian conservative, they want to actually have authority and responsibility and not just responsibility and no authority, then this kind of cultural phenomenon pulls away at that. And so they attack it pretty aggressively. And so that's kind of really an explanation, I think, of where we're at with the Wifejak memes. Now, I did want to actually pull some up and that were individually. Some of these, and forgive me, my mouse is, of course, going to be dying right now. I did want to pull up some of these individually, so I'll pull away from this, actually, and go back to this, too. And you can even, I mean, it's pretty simple, man. You can literally just type in Wifejak, and you'll see some of the craziest stuff. Now, hopefully my mouse can turn back on and be accurate. Bad time to go down. And so you can see this, right? It's actually just 17,000 views on a very simple picture. It's the Norman Rockwell, I believe that's who painted this, of the guy standing up when he has an opinion that he thinks will be attacked by others. I like the wife Jack and daughter Jack memes, and they're very wholesome. So it's everywhere, right? And so there's a clip here. Even people are quoting all of what Nick Fuentes has said, and then here's the opposing ideal here from Chris Brunette. Wife Jack is gay, painting Nick Fuentes as a brown crowd, um, as a homosexual, really using some of these, and it took on a life of its own. There's all these different kind of depictions. You have the upgraded Christmas sweater wife. You have the daughter. There's also a husband Jack as well, although that one truly has kind of not really taken a life on its own. That one's kind of honestly more like idiot Jack or like dumb husband Jack. I've really not seen any that are like pretty solid. But I think that's specifically because men, or not men, women don't really understand the meme, and so they kind of do a poor job at it. I thought that Aristophanes, and I'm glad this one's right here. You can see I like this one already. Actually had a really good description of what's going on with this. So I'll go ahead and read this here. So Aristophanes says, the wife jack discourse is getting obnoxious. I know, but it all revolves around who has realized this image and who hasn't. As an exercise, view most women through the paternalistic lens that they are like a cute Shiba Inu, which is like a dog. Sometimes they demand your attention and will bother you until you get it. Sometimes you have to stop them from eating a ton of chocolate. Sometimes they tear up the house out of boredom. It will be aggravating to fix the problems for them when they could have just not caused the problem to begin with. Forgive me. Sometimes you wish that Shiba Inu could see the world the way that you do and have the same priorities and worldview, but she can't. She's a Shiba Inu, not a man. Men and women are fundamentally different creatures in physiology, emotional wiring, social priorities, and instincts. It's really easy to grow to hate women when you attempt to hold them to your own standards for behavior 100% of the time, because those standards are male standards. Don't look at women like flawed men. Look at them like the fair sex, the cute and capricious. I don't even know how to say that word. Capricious. This guy's smarter than me. Troublemakers they are. Like the humble Shiba Inu. To men, women should be seen as lovable retards. I assume women think the same thing about men. That being said, there's pretty good reasons that Shiba Inu can't vote. And so it's this funny scene from Omni-Man where he tells that, forgive me, man, I can't speak. I'm already losing my voice. Where he tells his son, after his son finds out his dad's true identity being an alien and that he was pretending to be a human, he says this quote to his son. It's a pretty good series. It's from Invincible. You should check it out if you haven't seen it already. But that's the quote there. And I think even more important is actually this first comment here, and I won't even read the rest, so I won't spare you. But he says, I think a lot of the people who recoil at the wife jack meme, not because of it being spammed so much, which is getting annoying, but at its sheer presence, are doing so because they see women as inferior men, because they are looking at them as a source of utility. Women are retarded, and it's a man's job to figure out how to husband with them with the carrot and not the lash, and to not resent them for being what they were made by God to be. And so I think that's extremely accurate. I think actually when a lot of this comes down to a more base point is the failure to understand that women are different and they're meant to be different. They have different purposes. I think even the average guy, as he gets to a certain point, would understand that, a wife really wouldn't, or not a wife, a woman wouldn't really be that attractive or desirable if she truly wasn't that kind of, had possessed that kind of mystique of being that much different than you or thinking of these things. Now, sure, there is instances where it can really bother you, but I think that part of the draw is that it's like, that is not the same person as you, right? Now, I really can't speak for, for gays or homosexuals. I don't understand that. But speaking just purely from a heterosexual point of view, I think you get these. Most men understand this. They go like, part of why I love my wife is because she needs to be protected. Part of the reason why I love my wife is because I must lead her. Part of why I love my wife is because I am the protector. And so if you didn't have these things, right? And I think that's where you stretch into the Tulsi Gabbard kind of individuals, or the military women, and you get guys who are like, okay, if you're attracted to that, there's probably a little something off with you, right? And so I'm talking about like the women who are like, I can do everything a man can do, but it's like the right wing version. And you get like the Tulsi Gabbards who are like shooting guns, and she's like, I can drive just like a man. Well, then I think even for the average guy, that's like maybe intimidating is not the right word. To me, it would just be outright like just not attractive. Like I don't, I want my wife to like dress pretty and like, and not be a master hunter craftsman type ordeal. And so that's for another. We can save that for another day. I think there, you have a discussion that needs to be had on the right wing with stuff regarding that too. Not to say that it's bad to like tomboys, but I think even farm girls have a way of being feminine. That is ingrained in them. And there's some women I think that just kind of try too hard and pretend too much. And it ends up just really coming off once again as this feminist girl boss that most men, if not all, are inherently kind of disgusted by. And it just needs to. And again, a lot of this goes back to the fact that if we wanted to lay down arms on both sides, is because this level of feminism being so deep in our culture, in our society, has damaged men to the point that they are, for one, I mean, outright hateful. I mean, this isn't, I'm not saying Nick Fuentes is, but there definitely are men that exist that hate women for everything that they are. And this is even outside of the behaviors that we talked about here, or like the Wifejak meme. This is out of like watching, I think, a lot of over and over and over kind of brain rot content of women that are like, I mean, there's that one who like goes online all the time who like takes her panties off and it's like, I'm gonna put it in this toolbox over here in this grocery store. And it's like, that's the kind of stuff where a guy sees that on his, on his lunch break at work when he just tried to open his phone, and he's in the middle of a 12-hour shift and he's barely making ends meet and he doesn't have anyone at home. He sees the kind of absolute difference that exists, not even just on like a quality of life aspect of like how hard is it to live versus not how hard is my life compared to this woman's life living it on easy mode. But they also see it from a means of like attention, desirability, and it kind of gives this not feeling of envy, but just like bitterness of like, I not that I want to be you, but that it's unfair. There's like a general kind of unfair nature, and it's not balanced at all. In fact, you get attacked and dumped on for being a man a lot of the times. Toxic masculinity, although I think we're a little bit beyond that. There are good portions, though, in a lot of communities where it's still like, you go a little bit too far. Everyone's like, whoa, 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 you should have, whoa, like that was a little too far. And so I don't think we're fully past that hump, but for the most part, we are. And Donnybrook says 90% of men would be happy with a loyal wife and family to protect and a little bit of land to build on. 100%. I think an example of this for myself is I started watching, what's it called? The Outdoor Boys. And you can even see the excitement on this guy's face, but it's a guy, he's got a YouTube channel, he's got like 10 million followers. And he just posts, I think, once a week. And it's him doing different, like, not even survival challenges, but it's him being like, all right, I took my tent and my sleeping bag and a stove, and I'm going to go sleep in the Alaskan wilderness for 3 days. And it's like not really much that edited, it's just jump cuts through time. And it's this guy, and like, not only is this guy excited doing it and like explaining all these things that he's doing and cooking things on the stove and like how he's going to hunt and what's in the area, what to look for. But I'm at like, 3 a.m, while I'm trying to like feed my daughter and stay awake. I'm like, I'm completely zoned in. I'm like, he's cooking, I'm like, I'm watching. I'm like, I could do that. And so a part of me, when I see that kind of stuff, I'm like, I would drop everything if I could just go drop a flag in some plot of land and be like, okay, I get this square. I can draw water from over here. I can chop these trees. It's like, let me have at it. No, although forgive me. Realistically, that's not going to work out just based on, having a daughter right now and my inability to probably survive with other people and be able to provide anything for outside of myself. But there is that draw, right? This simplistic kind of draw. And I think when you think of it like that too, you got to think of the fact that what do most women say on these podcasts, right? What's one of the first questions? How much does your man have to make? How much does your man have to make for you to be with him? What does your husband have to have for you to be with him, right? Or like, how does for a guy to even date you? I think I actually kind of like misframed the question there. And all of that builds up to be this kind of bottled up resentment. But when it's taken out on a meme, like a Wifejak meme, when you do have husbands who have like who've found the good ones or have at least done the work to kind of iron out the feminism and at least lead their wives to a position where they're like, okay, I don't think like that anymore. They find these things to be endearing because they're in a position of like, I already got it. Like I'm in the good place. And so I think to even give a knock on that position, it's like it's easy to look at the men who don't have anything yet or who have struggled with dating and go like, yeah, come on, man, that's pathetic. But again, you have to understand when you've been married for so many years, you've been in a relationship for so many years, and you've had these things at your disposal because you had the intelligence and articulation to manipulate the world around you to earn that and be in a position of deserving that, or at least in a loving position. That's when you go, okay, maybe it's a little bit too harsh, but I know they're being harsh. But should we look at the problems here and be like, why is there such a disconnect from a certain sect of men being able to be successful in the dating market versus another sect of men who will have an extremely hard time? For whatever reason that may be. And I mean, this even goes outside of obviously being physically fit. I think a lot of people could even point out that there's like physically fit guys who go to the gym and they write things all the time. Like I've seen a lot of kind of sad letters like throughout Reddit and on social media as well. And maybe they're all fake, but I highly doubt it. That just talk about, man, this is really rough. Like I've done everything I can. I've went and I've done this. I have a good job. It's just like I just can't get a woman, to be interested in me. And you can even stretch that again. And I know I'm kind of rambling on the same subject here. I apologize, but I think you can even stretch that to the point of like maybe even cold approaching is dead. When you look at how the internet has affected dating, I mean, with Tinder and all those other kind of apps, and forgive me, I'm sure there's a lot more and other better ones and newer ones than that. That's just the first one that comes to mind. I'm showing my age a little bit too. I wish I wasn't getting this old. Um, but what was funny was in the early days of dating being done online, it was kind of like made fun of. It was like only like the most desperate of desperate people would do that. And now here we sit where it's like the commonly accepted format of dating. That's what most people do now. Very rarely does somebody actually go in the physical presence and go do it. Now, what I see often prescribed is guys telling, yeah, guys, just go out in real life and go do it. Well, I don't think, and I've seen evidence to this not working too. I think I've seen evidence of it working as well. But what's to say that women have also adapted their idea of what dating is as well? And maybe any guy who approaches you and doesn't swipe on you or send you a message on Instagram or something first is creepy by default, no matter what he looks like. Because, like, who does that anymore? And so I think a lot of these things need to be discovered, or rather delved into. Forgive me, not discovered, but at least spent time trying to understand to a greater level than what we get right now. The whole like just get married thing, I think it's just so weak. It's such a like it's such a non-answer. It's like a scoff, really. It's like not even an answer. It's like just get married. And it's like maybe you're talking to a guy who's been on 18 different dating apps and has went through like, 14 different women in 3 months, not sexually, but like trying to date them and failing. And you say something like that and he goes like, the most common kind of way to boil that down is like, maybe it is just me. Maybe I am the problem. And especially when you the best you can get out of the top, like the Matt Walshes and other conservative pundits, is like, what are you doing? Like, just go do it. Just go talk to women. And so I think there's a lot more that needs to be discussed inside of that kind of dichotomy between men and women. And I think the wife jack is kind of exposing like the ugliest side of it, where you're getting men who just see a woman in her natural like habitat, and they go, I hate it. And I think that's how there's a little bit more going on under the layers. That's like maybe it's not just these guys are closeted homosexuals, right? I know it's kind of funny to point at and be like, maybe they're all gay. Um, but there's a lot of individuals and a lot of the youth. I mean, this is a guy who's captured a lot of the young guys. I think there's maybe a bit more that needs to be discovered, and not to say like by any means it's okay to hate women, but in any regard. I think you can hate feminism and what it's brought. But to go as far as what some of these guys are going with these memes and showing these individuals is like, Okay, now we're kind of like fetishizing, like, being violent against women, and like that's just not okay. I mean, one of the like the last things you should ever do as a male is try to inflict some kind of physical damage on a woman if it's anything outside of self defense. And Danny Brooks says getting married is important, but just get married is effing horrible advice to blanket all men with. And I think that's 100% right. I think now I know that there's extreme cases like we see with Jeff Younger. But I think Jeff Younger has a great point where he talks about how in the liberal world order, or not liberal world order, but in this liberalized world, women have free will. I mean, they can do what they want. There's no there we don't have no divorce. Oh my gosh, I can't think of what it's called. But it's super easy to get divorced, right? You have all these things in place that's like you don't have to take it to court. You can just, I would say, I want to annul the marriage. You don't need to provide evidence for some kind of like abuse or wrongdoing. You can just say, I don't want to do this. I want to be me, right? Or like give some kind of like very platonic answer to that. And in those cases, and when women are allowed to kind of run free reign, they dominate in family courts. There's even an actual kind of very mathematical and visible disincentive to just getting married as well. And when you compare that with the rhetoric you get from the men who you think should be helping kind of balance out and be against feminism, they go, it's just not worth it. Like there's no way I would capitulate to that system. And I think they have a point with that. And I think that's one thing I've been pretty hammering on, or pretty I've hammered on. Forgive me, I can't talk. See, I'm rusty. I haven't streamed in a while myself, and talking this long is going to get me saying crazy things. Um, but I think maybe to even move on from there, and again, make sure my mouse isn't dead completely. That's like probably as far as I wanted to take with the Wifejak meme. If anybody joins late or has anything else they want to say, I'd actually like to. I'll get into it with you as well and have further discussion. That's another thing too. Is I'm glad there's a lot of people in here. I got like I think 6 or 7 concurrent viewers. It's kind of surprising to me actually because I've not been live in such a good bit. Um, I do have the chat turned on, so you can see Donnie's been popping up on the screen. So feel free to chat in or say things. I was able to set a goal too. That's like brand new to me. So I set one for like super chats as well. And don't feel like you have to donate to me. I've been rough and rusty already, so I'd be surprised if I even got one. But just like to play with the new tools here. And so I'm gonna go actually to some of these things I put in the outline for jar openers. Because again, I figured why make two outlines when I can just make one that's huge and then just pull from the things that I think that it's better covering here. And what's up, nights to get in? I appreciate that. Thank you. I do feel a little bit rusty. I feel like I was on such a roll right before I started doing jar openers a good bit more. Um, and Donnie was here on time today. Yes, a lot of times Donnie Donnie joins in at like the last minute, and I'm like wrapping up the show. I think it's pretty funny. I could go say nice to see Alice and Donnie. Single female practicing chastity for the right person. I'll be spending the rest of my life with. It's been very difficult to find men who don't want to just have sex. Yeah, no, and I think yeah, and that's something I haven't touched on much at all. But I think that you're right. I think even from the female perspective and lens looking back in, that's what most men want. And the unfortunate thing too is the fact that Kukla, if a lot of girls your age and a lot of people in your area, a lot of girls, they give it up almost instantly, well then it's like it's hard for you to compete because if what men think that they want is just sexual access, to them you become undesirable because it's like now I have to work a bit harder and wait for it, and so it adds a lot more to the equation there. And so that's like the kind of like the market, and it's like that's when you get other females are literally bringing you down by like doing things that are obviously being unchaste and being sinful. It weighs it down in that aspect and makes it all harder for everybody. And that's not to say one side's worse than the other. In terms of being chaste, I think that that's a problem on both sides. But there's probably a little bit nuance that I could explore there too. But yeah, no, it's hard on both sides. I think, Kukla. And so I do hope on your journey you can find a good and rightful man, an honorable man, who's willing to actually do the right thing. And we got Nets getting saying Matthew 6:33 is where it all ends up, looking for the wrong things. Actually, go ahead and I'll look that up here real quick. Actually, let me see this. And I know actually Donnie actually messaged me a good bit about an experience. I'd actually like I was going to read it, not on air. I was actually looking forward to being able to respond to it. In Matthew 6:33, but seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. 100%. That's great advice. I think it's a good thing that for Kukla actually to keep working on, or not working on, but staying at too. Um, and for the reality of the fact that you're probably going to have, when you do end up getting into a relationship and you do carry these things out and you finally actually do carry out marriage the way it's supposed to happen, you're going to have such a better relationship, I think, than most people will have had in regards to just the oneness, becoming the one flesh together, not having to worry about all of the other biological things that occur when you do have sex with other individuals, that beforehand, the kind of like the pair bonding that exists and all the things that can kind of break your brain pathways. And obviously it's just not right, not there. And oh yeah, scared in Canada. I did see that Justin Trudeau is willing to work with Trump on some things regarding the tariffs. But let's see here specifically, because there was a couple things I did want to cover. If I can find them here, so forgive me. I want to make sure I'm not going to cover anything majorly important for jar openers. That way, I'm not undercutting the show a bit. So I want to make sure I find a good spot. But once again, thank you for being here, everybody. Kukla, Knights Gideon, Donnie, Just a Guy. I'm sure there's a couple more that have popped in here too. Yeah, so here's one of the things I wanted to talk about. And I might as well, because YouTube's already given me the business for talking about this kind of stuff. So let me go ahead and put it on screen. So this is a video here, which I'll play here in a second. But it's from Greg Reese, is the original video. And he says, Trump surrounding himself with Operation Warp Speed accomplices. Now, I do want to preface this with the fact that I was a late bloomer when it came to finally swinging my support behind Trump. I'm not here to say I told you so by any means. That's not the point of it, and there's no winning in that aspect. Just being right on a certain aspect like that, I'd actually would rather be wrong, to be proven wrong. But to be specific, is again with what I had alluded to in the very beginning with the appointments leading up to the Wifejak talk, is the fact that I just have such a bad feeling regarding where we are heading. And I kind of preface this with the fact that we had recess appointments floated out to us. We had confirmations from other correspondents saying that no matter who would be the Senate Majority Leader, even before the voting happened, that recess appointments were on the table and they would get out of the way and Trump could do what he wanted. And next thing you know, Matt Gaetz resigns from Congress, takes the AG nomination, and then is out, then says, even though he got elected to the 119th Congress, won't return, and now he's on Cameo making videos. I kid you not. Now, for money, I'm not sure, but there was a report that came out, and I did see some photos of the verified profile that Matt Gaetz is on Cameo. And I even said I had a bad feeling that if Matt Gaetz actually did leave politics and didn't return, I would have a feeling that maybe some kind of deal was done, that he gets to walk away without the ethics report blowing up in his face, were there to be wrongdoing there. I don't want to think the worst of Matt Gaetz, but I'm somebody who follows evidence in the direction that it goes. And the feeling that I have, and if I was to be honest with you, and I am someone who black buzz a bit more than the average person should be, that's the direction and vibe I get from the actions that were taken after that. Especially for the woman to replace him being Pam Bondi, and she being, with Gaetz being a great pick and her being a barely okay one. I think the only points that she gets is the fact that, what's the right word to say? That she's a loyalist. She was there to defend against the impeachment stuff. But outside of that, I think her morality is yet to be discovered. But again, I do think that Trump, I wish Trump would actually move to a further Christian position and we could actually get some more Christian nationalism to actually begin to be installed in this country. It'd be the right direction, the right course correction. But I don't see that coming anytime soon. But to go back to the video here, you have Greg Reese, Trump surrounding himself with Operation Warp Speed accomplices. Now we'll watch this a little bit here. But David Icke says, are you getting it yet? And he calls out Alex Jones, Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, Russell Brandon, Jordan Peterson, the Tate brothers, the Weinstein brothers, on and on. He said, you think the self-proclaimed father of the vaccine was going to appoint people who would expose his central frontman role in the, I don't know if you're just going to bug me for that, but for the destruction of untold numbers. What a Trump-Musk psyop has been played on you, and you've fallen for it big time. So this is a really hard kind of black pill, especially here from David Icke, essentially kind of saying like, you idiots, you were fooled. And, you even getting that from the libertarian side too. You had people wanting to debate in on spaces with Dave Smith and Clint Russell over, have you guys truly abandoned your libertarian principles? Like, did you fall for a politician once more? And then you have House Leotardo saying, if Garland didn't prosecute Gates, they probably don't have anything on him. Now, and I think that's possible. It just makes me think maybe it's not even what we were hearing about in the ethics report. I think maybe that could have been a smear, just with the underage aspect. Maybe there was something more there. I know I had sent a thread out to Donnie actually that actually had a good bit more on this thread, talking about how Gates may possibly have been the fall man for something that took place years ago that involved another individual who was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Now, if I can find that thread or I can pick it back up from where I'd sent it to Donnie, I'll actually put it in the Discord, Leotardo, if you're in there. But I don't have access to it right now. But it was kind of a very, very long and in-depth thread on X that pointed out possibly this goes a lot deeper than what we all think on the surface level. But I will go ahead and play this video because I'd like to, we're going to hear out the surrounding of the kind of swamp individuals, especially in regards to what's occurring with the 2020 era. Let me make sure these headphones are still connected. I hope they are. I'm going to turn it down just to be sure.
The other concern I have is the bioweapon that was released on us, the vaccines. That needs to be communicated effectively in the new administration that something bad happened.
Many of us would like to see justice for the millions murdered by the nanotech-infected shots. But don't hold your breath. If approved, our next cabinet will include, as administrator for Medicare and Medicaid, Dr. Oz, a television personality who pushed implantable chips, transgenderism for kids, and pushed the deadly COVID vaccines repeatedly.
Should people have their children vaccinated?
Definitely yes.
Definitely yes.
Definitely yes. As a doctor, even I'm in awe of the incredible advances made in search of a COVID-19 vaccine.
So the reason why they're pointing out Oz, and I hate to pause it right there as well, is the fact that Oz is now part of the team. Now I believe he's taking care of Medicare services and Medicaid services. I think that might be the position. I might be forgetting which one specifically. But now that I'm only 50 seconds into this video, I realized that if I probably go much further, I probably will get another strike from YouTube. So I will just let you know, I'll go ahead and back out of this. This is from Greg Reese. On the Reese Report, I believe is what it's called. That's why it's the 2 hours right there, back to back. And I just want to make sure that I don't absolutely get bounced on YouTube after getting another what do you call that? Strike or whatever, or warning or whatever that was called. But I do agree with a lot of what was being said there. But again, if we can just go through this, we can see that he's got Oz here. You have Marco Rubio. Now, Marco Rubio's worse for a ton of reasons, whether he's from the Warhawk side or for him being also another person who, got a camera crew to take pictures of him getting the vaccine. You have Tulsi Gabbard, who I'm not sure how much she played into it, but that seems like a video of her encouraging it. Then this is the Jeanette Neshawat. She's now going to be the U.S. Surgeon General. This is the lady who had all of the pro-censorship stuff, combating misinformation. I mean, she's got loads of videos about her. I mean, she was by far, I think, the most visibly poor choice. Who else do we have in here? I mean, obviously quotes from him himself. Now, I don't know if I saw any more here, any other individuals, but, just some of the latest ones all getting thrown in there that are pretty aggressively poor. Now, Kukla says, don't trust Pam Bondi, WEFer. Don't trust Pam Bondi because she's extremely abysmal on the Second Amendment. Pam Bondi is in short, during the Zimmerman trial, the Trayvon Martin case that kind of blew open a lot of this kind of Black Lives Matter stuff and a lot of the racialized sentiment behind, defending oneself, and using guns and coming after guns. The original prosecutor resigned because he refused to be politically pressured into forcing Zimmerman to stand trial. And because of that, Pam Bondi appointed another out-of-district attorney to pursue the case. And also, she's had previous statements talking about red flag laws and trying to encourage Trump after the Parkland shooting in 2018, which we went on in the jar openers last episode, to kind of to kind of get this encouraging sentiment from Trump about what she was doing was good. Then Downey says there was no option to get a libertarian or a Christian nationalist in office. What we had was a guy that had a grade and could do some damage and was ultimately the better option. Yes. I'm happy with the appointment so far, but I'm comfortable that I picked the best option. Yes. No, I agree. Now, I guess more so my point being is that I think what my argument is closer to two wings of the same bird. Now one obviously seems a lot more appealing than the other, and I agree one was much better than the other. But ultimately at the end of the day, if we do get another term that is rampant with not getting anything done, not prosecuting individuals, at a certain point, at least as far as I've been alive, you begin to question just how much political power you can even exercise, even if you win in the end, even if you get the people who you like in place, even if your pundits say all of the right things. At a certain point when things don't happen and don't get taken care of, it just pulls into you like maybe this is truly just a game, forever game of the lesser than two evils. And the way out isn't by voting harder next time. Now, that's not a call to do anything crazy like what we saw on January 6th. It's just a mention of maybe we must do something to alter or disrupt the system to a degree that we're not doing currently. And then Kugler says, "Ick for Oz," and that female can't remember what Secretary of Health new appointee. It's Jeanette Neshawat, the U.S. Surgeon General. They picked her over Ben Carson, who also probably had a slightly better record. She had the same sentiments as Oz on vaccine Gestapo tactics, 100%. And culture is changing now more than ever, and we have to help shape the new right. Yes, and I agree with that too. And that's why I think a lot of attention needs to be paid to what is happening on the new right. I think you have a lot of, I think Milo Yiannopoulos, when he was on Timcast, put this in a really good perspective not too long ago, when he was on the Timcast episode, where he essentially said, if you are a person who exists on the right wing, who's, not willing to lie and sell your soul for dollars to say things that you think are true, and you have a microphone and a camera, he's like, there's room for you at the table. And I think he was pointing to the fact that there is such a strong lack of people who are not kind of slaves by any stretch of the word, to money or to anything but their actual principles. There's a spot for you. And I think the reason why that's important is because I've not seen the right wing actually so broken apart in my entire life. It's splintered in a lot of different directions. You had, and this is from things like all the way, again, back from like Calendargate that separated the Christian right from the more liberal and libertarian right. And then even among the libertarian right, you have all of these breakups over things like how far do we go to legislate against drugs. That's why you have Clint Russell and Dave Smith kind of moving to the Trump side, but there's still a big portion that are Chase Oliver stuff. You have, again, what I call an infiltration, where you have people like Constantine, the guy who runs the trigonometry, people like James Lindsay, who are much more interested in pursuing 2012 liberalism. Obviously they would, disavow all of the crazy leftist stuff, but they call people like me and the Christian nationalist group, the woke right, and calling them, calling us fascists and authoritarians, and saying, once again, that we're no different than the left. We just have different things you want to implement. And you have split ups even among women. I think there's a lot of girls who have seen things like Andrew Wilson and Pearl Davis and have kind of broken away from maybe that more traditional mold that was being kind of let out to them. And overall, you look at everything that you have combined, and I think a lot of people are looking for a bit more of like a unifying voice to kind of like round all this up. And I think that's why the right wing, I mean, it will always kind of exist this way where we infight to a degree because we're little bit more willing to be principled and convicted than leftists. And it's not a cult. You know, we're not in this kind of conditioning to be cult like. Now, the one thing we most all right wingers have in common is the fact that we harshly disagree and don't want, things like the New World Order. So Alex Jones can talk about WEF and talk about the Soros funds and foundations, how much money he's dumping in, and most people would go, yeah, like we all can't stand that. Tim Pool blows goats, yes. I think he's got a good platform. I do. I think I always say that. I think he's built up his platform to be one that's got eyes on it all the time. But have I found myself agreeing with him like at all like, in the last couple of weeks, months, years? Hardly at all. No, I did think he did a good job with Milo Yiannopoulos, and they were talking about the Christian foundations of the country. I thought they did wonderful, kind of rehashing that and kind of attacking Eliyahu. If you haven't seen that, I'm not attacking, but pointing out Eliad's an idiot is probably a better way to explain that. Fence sitter, goat blower, same thing. My Canadian linguistics, it's funny. But I was only going to probably go for an hour today. I'm getting to the end point of that too. And like I said, I didn't want to wrap up a lot of what I was covering from jar openers and take advantage of that. But you can see my goal. My goal is to obviously stream more between those episodes. So I'm hoping I can find a chance to actually stream in the meantime between, what would it be, Wednesday and Saturday. So expect either on the morning of one of those days or on Thursday or Friday. I will try my best to actually orient either a lot of things that we didn't cover from the outline and what's been new since then, and try to get back to doing the 2-hour-long episodes. Since I've been a bit more radical online, I will say I've been accused of being brown because a group of people saw my bio and it says like it's okay to be white. And I was just thinking of like, quick guys, like how do I prove like my whiteness? And then I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's kind of funny though. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I really wanted to point out. Just besides like, I'm going to do this as consistently as I was before, at least try to do it like twice a week at minimum, especially because I'm getting into such a rhythm with jar openers. It's pretty easy to kind of get back to this. And that'll probably last as long as until we start adding more episodes into jar openers. Because you do want to move to a bit more of a daily show there. But yeah, Andrew Wilson is Orthodox. I like his wife, Rachel. Yeah, Andrew Wilson's one of my favorite. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Kukla. A good portion I wanted to talk about too is I would like to, I think I might start walking a little bit through my episodes of the fact that I've been looking at a lot of Orthodox sources and a lot of Orthodox readings, teachings, studies, because it's really been speaking to me here lately. And again, I'm not an apologetic by any means, but just some of the arguments that I've heard presented from the debates from people like Andrew Wilson have been very eye-opening. And I think it's always good to not assume that you know the right answer, especially as valuable as humans are, and especially in regards to that's something so serious in nature. But again, I'll save that discussion for a later time. Donnie said they did actually watch that episode, first one in a long time. Yeah, the Milo and Temple one. Yeah, and Milo's just a funny character. Seeing him attack people is always good, and always good stuff. And Nancy Gideon says 2 hours. We've been hitting 3 hours, and I'm glad you guys are going that long. See, once you get into the rhythm, you can kind of eat up time. You can kind of just eat up a bunch of time. But like same thing with jar openers. Like we think we hit a 3.5 hour episode, maybe 4 or 5 episodes back, but most of them were going well past 2 hours. We're going like that JRE Joe Rogan stance too. And Donnie says he's checking out an Orthodox church this weekend. Yeah, and particularly in that journey, it's just been a lot of I can save it for the next episode, but it's a lot in regards to the Nala discussion, the former porn star, the discussion that surrounded that, and watching how kind of the ortho bros disseminated that and their answers and ideas and solutions and resolutions versus how the internet Protestant branch acted, including people like Michael Knowles as well, it was really disappointing. Especially for someone who's been Protestant my entire life. That's the best I can say without going too much deeper into that. Just kind of seeing those responses and what both sides were saying, I was like, there's no way that that's what people think or believe, and it was very disingenuous, very bad arguments on one side in particular. But I guess I'll leave it there. That way I have content to cover for the next time around, because I'm sure that debate's not going anywhere. Andrew Wilson gets attacked every single day. He tweets something out in regards to that, especially because he speaks truth to power. Nobody likes that anymore, especially when you go after women, because women are sitting on the throne right now. At least how it is in America, and a few other select groups of people who I will save talking about till next time. But I do want to say thanks everybody for being here. I appreciate it. I don't think I have anything else to add besides I will send the Discord link if you're not already joined as well. We'd appreciate seeing you there and being involved in jar openers. It's a bit more active since we opened it up to jar openers. But Christ is King. I'm glad everybody is getting more oriented with the church. I'm about to jump off of here and read what Donnie sent me so I can give a response to him. And I will see you either on Thursday or Friday. But until then, take care. We got to make sure we're holding the line, holding everybody's feet to the fire, and hopefully praying big time as well that we will get what is just, we will get what we as people deserve, and not be under the oppression of this ridiculous tyranny, this terminally online, psychological, oppressive, always on the verge of World War III tyrannical government. But thank you again, Knights Gideon. Thanks for everybody who has helped me out with the mic. Sounded good too. I hope I tuned it as best I could. But until next time, take it easy. Christ is King, and I wish you guys all well. I'll see you soon. Bye.